Hello everybody, welcome back to Planet X News. Ladies and gentlemen, over the course of the next couple of months, I am going to disclose a lot of UFO and extraterrestrial information. Approximately 30 days ago, I was contacted by some of the most profound UFO investigators here on this planet, and they are seeking full disclosure, especially from the United States government. Now, over this period of time, I have had several video conferences with these gentlemen, and they have formed several organizations to create this disclosure, to push the disclosure through the United States government. And we have seen some of this disclosure already on mainstream media. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to release this information as I get it from them. Now, during several video conferences that I've had with these gentlemen, they have now given me access via a username and password to all of this information. And let me say, there is quite a lot of it. Now, I do understand that my channel is geared towards Planet X research, and it will stay that way. During this initial email that I received, and to be honest with all of you, I actually thought it was a joke until I returned the email, and after a few back and forth conversations, I then realized that the initial email was no joke, especially when I was provided a link to this video conference call. And during this video conference call, I was introduced to several gentlemen who are at the forefront of UFO and extraterrestrial disclosure. The few video clips that you're about to see are a few of these gentlemen, and they are talking about this subject matter. Now, folks, not only is my subject matter of Planet X discovery very heavily censored on YouTube and Facebook, all of social media, even the internet now. Unfortunately, the alien disclosure information is now becoming heavily censored. I will be releasing a lot more information on our private network. So if you are not a member, please sign up. The link is in the description box under all of my videos. Now, folks, pay very close attention to the statements that you're about to hear.
We are at a time of transition that has not been parallel, it's not been seen since 1776 in this country, where all of our institutions are going to be turned inside out, and we are going to have government corruption rooted out at a level that we've never seen before, and that's about to happen. And once that domino falls, all of these dominoes, like you were saying, they're all connected. And UFO disclosure is one of those dominoes. There's other types of disclosure, free energy, free healing technology. All of these are dominoes that are all connected to each other. And that once the first one tipped over, they're going to hit the other dominoes, and they're all going to fall. And that's where we are right now in this community.
How soft disclosure is going to last for?
I think it could take as long as 10 years, maybe as short as 5 years. Because the end result is we're not alone. Right, and we're not that we're just not alone, but what's visiting us has capability and intelligence beyond us. Like, we're little fish now, all of a sudden, in a big, big sea. But I've always said, if there's one, there's millions of races that can come here and visit us. They're not flying per se through our skies; they're translating through our time space in craft that are essentially time machines. So they're multidimensional. So people are going to have to stop thinking about just our physical universe. They're going to have to start thinking about alternate realities, alternate universes, wormholes, time travel, all of that has to come into play. And it's a very hard pill to swallow.
How does all that link in with the censorship that's going on with YouTube, Facebook, Twitter? Because it is quite bad now, actually. I don't think people realise how bad it is, and it is. It hits people hard who are making YouTube films and all kinds now.
Censorship is one of the flailing hits from the globalist controlled organizations like YouTube, like Twitter, all of these organizations. They're trying to stop what I just talked about. They're desperate to stop it. They don't want UFO disclosure. The globalists that sit over the nations that are trying to keep their power, and they are desperately fighting back against the populism and the people who are trying to undo us from these institutions. And so one of the ways that they're just desperately flailing out is through this censorship on YouTube, on Twitter, of any voices that are different or unique or that are trying to help liberty and freedom. And so they're trying to put a stop to it. And that's why we're seeing it. And it's unbelievable. It's un-American, and it's wrong. It really is.
Circa June of 2019, so much that it's difficult to keep up with. First of all, for those of you outside of the United States, and you haven't been watching the news, we have a couple of constitutional crises going at the same time. Massive political machinations and so forth. And it's dominating the media. It's dominating people's time. Our presidential campaign is already well underway with 23 candidates, and it's 17, 18 months away, which is just insane. So there's that. But then, aside from that, but still getting some coverage, a decent amount of coverage, there have been major developments since 2017. Most of it is around the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, an interestingly named organization that is CEO'd by an interesting fellow by the name of Tom DeLonge, who is the former Blink-182 head man, also Angels and Airways, made a lot of money in music, sold 30 million records, but has a lifelong interest in the subject. And he was talking to people inside the military intelligence complex with an idea he had, and this is around early 2015, and it turned out that some of them had a very similar idea. And before you know it, they had formulated a plan to come forward with a public organization. We didn't hear anything about this until March of 2016, when he was interviewed by George Knapp on Coast to Coast and hinted about it. He didn't give any names or specifics, but he basically was saying something profound, this way comes. He talked about a book that was going to come out, The Secret Machines. All of it was pretty interesting. It was hard for me to take it in. I'm thinking, this doesn't sound like it could be true. And yet the book Secret Machines came out just a month later, and I began to realize this was true. So we were waiting for something profound to arrive. And it was supposed to arrive, probably in November, December of 2017. But these plans, I believe, were very much connected to the circumstances regarding the presidential election at that time. You had a lot of people high level in the DoD, CIA, that were well aware of hundreds of articles being written about the ET interests by the Clintons and Podesta and others, and the Rockefeller Initiative and all of that. And they also then noted she was starting to actually having to say something, forced out of cover, you might say. Not giving any extensive interviews, definitely not, but limited appearances on various talk shows, or even her husband, Barack Obama. And I think they concluded that she fully intended to win the White House and then pretty quickly come to the Pentagon and say it's over. You stonewalled Carter, you stonewalled my husband, you stonewalled Obama. I'm the president now. We're going to announce the ET presence. And from their point of view, that would have been really a problem, because if they didn't do something, if they didn't take some, I guess you'd say, forward-looking action, the politicians were going to throw them under the bus.
What's the day after disclosure going to look like then, when the penny does drop?
Yeah.
What's the world going to look like?
Well, I think that's the biggest problem, because these things obviously aren't using petroleum. They're not burning oil to get around. They're using an advanced technology, which is probably free energy, so quote-unquote free energy. And I think that we have captured some of that technology, and we may not necessarily understand how it works, but we have it. I think we might be, 1947 happened, Roswell happened. We have that technology. We've probably been trying to back engineer it ever since then. The most highly classified, top secret thing anywhere would be Roswell. Above and beyond, nuclear capability or anything else, because we understand nuclear capability, we don't understand this technology. But we may now. There are scientists out there who I've heard interviewed who believe they understand it. And they're sharp cookies, with lots of PhDs and things like that, and they think they might have an inkling in how this stuff works. But free energy is something that would basically de-enslave us. We're slaves. Man is slave all around the planet. This would mean the end of famine, the end of energy, the end of need, basically, the end of want for mankind. And it would put the oil companies out of business. So all these corporations that control how the world works and control the direction of politics and the direction of war, they're put out of business. And they don't want that to happen because they're pulling all the strings right now. So you would probably see things like a stock market crash, unless you've thought way far ahead on how to integrate this information into this reality. There could be some problems, but we're going to have to swallow some bitter pills.
Now, some of the topics that we are going to cover will be the Clinton ET connection. And yes, I am referring to Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and let's throw in John Podesta. Some of the questions that have arisen are as such. Why did John Podesta participate in the Sci-Fi Channel-funded Coalition for Freedom of Information, launched on October 22, 2002, in coordination with the premiere of Steven Spielberg's series, Taken? More specifically, why did John Podesta choose that moment to call for the release of all government-held UFO files 21 months after President Clinton had left office? Why did John Podesta leave his position as CEO of the Center for American Progress and return to the White House on October of 2013 as an advisor to President Obama? Why did John Podesta post his now famous regret tweet on his last day working for the president on his way to being the co-chair of Secretary Hillary Clinton's campaign? Why did the Clinton team make the decision that Secretary Hillary Clinton would, upon taking the White House, be the disclosure president? At what point was that decision made? Why did Governor Bill Richardson write his foreword to the book Roswell Dig Diaries just as he was gearing up to run for president? To what degree was Vice President Al Gore aware of the Rockefeller Initiative and the Clintons' intentions regarding the ET issue? To what degree was President Clinton stonewalled by the government agencies regarding any requests for ET-related information he had a constitutional supported right to receive without redaction? How did he feel about that? Why did Governor Clinton ask Webster Hubbell to look into the UFO matter once he was ensconced at the Department of Justice? Why did John Podesta agree to work with Tom DeLonge and his projects in the middle of a presidential campaign? Was this decision run by Secretary Hillary Clinton? What does President Clinton and Secretary Hillary Clinton privately think about the evidence for an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race? Was President Clinton formally briefed by the Pentagon and or other government agencies about the extraterrestrial issue? Given what was said by the Clinton team during the presidential campaign, why have they not said anything further since the 2016 election. What would happen if the Clintons were to publicly speak at length to the extraterrestrial issue now? How could journalist George Stephanopoulos, after leaving the Clinton administration in 1996, have sat on the Rockefeller Initiative story for 22 years? You see, ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot to uncover when dealing with the Clinton Podesta ET initiative. Now, you're probably wondering by now what the Rockefeller Initiative is. Who are the players? Well, for number one, the Rockefeller in question is Mr. Lawrence Rockefeller, and yes, he is a member of the infamous Rockefeller family. President Bill Clinton and the majority of his administration. What was the Rockefeller Initiative? Well, to put it bluntly, Lawrence Rockefeller was trying to initiate President Bill Clinton to become the disclosure president. Who were the people involved? Why did it happen? How important is this initiative to the history of the disclosure advocacy movement? What are the best resources available to learn about this initiative? Who is the leading researcher? Why was the Rockefeller Initiative able to fly under the radar of the political media, the Congress, and the White House for 28 years? Why have the Clintons and their key colleagues and advisors never spoken publicly about the Rockefeller Initiative? What role did the Rockefeller Initiative play in the 2016 presidential election? When was the Rockefeller Initiative first mentioned in mainstream print publication after 1996? Who was the reporter? How close did the Rockefeller Initiative come to triggering disclosure? Ladies and gentlemen, I have obtained all of these documents through the Freedom of Information Act. They are now available, and over the course of the next upcoming weeks and months, we're going to be going over all of this information. And hopefully, in the very, very near future, we will see UFO and extraterrestrial disclosure in this lifetime. And just a few days ago, the current president, President Donald Trump, was interviewed by George Stephanopoulos from ABC News. And let's not forget that George was part of the Clinton administration, possibly the disclosure president. Well, we know now that that did not happen. During this ABC News interview that aired this past Sunday, George Stephanopoulos asked President Donald Trump what he thought about the current UFO disclosure situation. And here is that video clip of his question.
You and I, we know we disagree about that, but we have a whole day ahead to go on this. Before we go, one of the things you have as president is the access to all the information in the world, all the mysteries out there. And I was just struck in the last couple of weeks, we're reading more and more reports of Navy pilots seeing lots and lots of UFOs. Have you been briefed on that? What do you make of it?
I have. I think it's probably... I want them to think whatever they think. They do say, I mean, I've seen and I've read and I've heard, and I did have one very brief meeting on it, but people are saying they're seeing UFOs. Do I believe it? Not particularly.
Do you think you'd know if there were evidence of extraterrestrials?
Well, I think our great pilots would know. And some of them really see things that are a little bit different than in the past. So we're going to see. But we'll watch it. You'll be the first to know.
Now, folks, before this video and this interview aired on ABC News on Sunday night, this portion of the interview was leaked out onto Twitter. I actually caught it on Saturday, and I did watch the entire interview, and it seemed that old Georgie boy, George Stephanopoulos, kind of surprised President Trump with this question. Now, there has been some information that just came out yesterday that George Stephanopoulos spent over 30 hours with President Trump for this specific interview. Now, folks, when I was in college, I studied body language, and I used it throughout my career. And I was looking very, very carefully at President Trump's body language. And in the picture that you see here on your screen, well, when someone is looking away when asked a question, that means they're surprised and they have to immediately think about what they're going to say. And 99.9% of the time, when somebody is looking away like that, they are thinking of a way to deceive you and not answer your question with honesty. Now, throughout this interview, I kept replaying it, and I was analyzing President Trump's body language and also George Stephanopoulos' body language. And George purposely put the president on the hot seat. And again, let's not forget that George Stephanopoulos was involved in the Clinton administration, so he knows fairly well about the Rockefeller Initiative and UFO disclosure. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay with me. Stay tuned to Planet X News. I have a lot of information that's going to be coming out again over the next several weeks and months. If you're interested in real alien disclosure, you will stick around. You will watch the videos. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this will definitely rock the entire world. There's so much to uncover. And there are a lot of people right here on this planet that do not want this information to come out. Religious organizations. And the biggest of all, the globalists. These are the actual people that are behind this cover-up. Not only the governments of the world, but the globalists, because they know the technology will destroy their empires. That is a fact, and that information has already been uncovered. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to learn more about this alien disclosure, please make sure you stay tuned to Planet X News. Thank you for watching. Be safe out there, folks. Take care.